Ladies and gentlemen, grab your double-double, pet your nearest moose, and brace yourselves, because Canada just went full constitutional rodeo. No joke, the maple syrup isn't even dry on the political panic pancakes. Picture this. The governor. General Yes, the Queen's rep. The lady who usually just hands out medals and posts polite selfies, just backed Alberta and Saskatchewan's right to break up with Ottawa. And over in liberal fantasy land, Mark Carney? He's having a public meltdown so intense it could melt a snowbank in Yellowknife. Carney, the spreadsheet messiah himself, former central banker and lover of acronyms, went full tilt on national TV because democracy did something off-script. So how did we get here? It all started when Senator Mark Gold, Ottawa's last hope for unelected wisdom, stood up in the Senate and basically declared that no province can leave Canada unless Parliament gives permission. In Gold's Canada, provinces are like toddlers in a federal daycare. Sorry, Alberta and Saskatchewan, you can't leave the playground unless Big Daddy Ottawa hands you a permission slip. Never mind that you're paying for the whole playground. Then, like a moose on skates crashing into a constitutional crisis, Senator Paula Simons dropped the question that shook the room. Does the Clarity Act apply to Alberta too? Seems simple, right? Well, not in this political circus. A verbal yoga session that twisted logic, law, and common sense into a pretzel. He mumbled something about how that would be a great question if this were a classroom, then flat out refused to answer. Honestly, you'd get more clarity from a foggy windshield in February. Meanwhile, in Alberta, Premier Danielle Smith isn't waiting around for Gold or Carney to finish reciting the Constitution in Latin. Alberta just dropped a political bombshell. The Citizen Initiative Act. Now, a referendum only needs 90,000 signatures. That's fewer than the number of annoyed Calgarians still waiting on Trudeau to build a pipeline. And this isn't just political theater anymore. The Alberta Prosperity Project isn't hiding behind vague talk of autonomy. Nope, they've gone full bold font breakup letter. Their proposed referendum question? Do you agree that Alberta shall become a sovereign country and cease to be a province of Canada? That's not flirting with independence. That's a hard launch. Enter Mark Carney. Stage left. Clutching the Clarity Act like it's a sacred scroll from Mount Bureaucracy, the man once hailed as the calm, cool technocrat from global finance suddenly looked like a université whose students just set fire to the syllabus. He didn't just panic, he detonated, red-faced, visibly rattled, muttering legalese, rambling about national unity, waving his arms like a malfunctioning semaphore operator on Red Bull, malfunctioning GPS, screaming recalculating. That's Mark Carney, unraveling like a scarf in a snowblower. Meanwhile, real leadership? Enter Pierre Poilievre. While the Laurentian elites were swirling Merlot and hosting think tanks to discuss Alberta's feelings, Pierre was in the trenches. Town halls, rain elevators, diners with bad coffee and real people. No Stafford-poured lattes. No policy salons with the Davos crowd. He listened. He showed up. He led. And the West? They noticed. After decades of being treated like Canada's overworked, underappreciated, oil-rich cousin, Alberta and Saskatchewan are done asking for permission. They're demanding respect. Now zoom out. The Clarity Act, passed in 2000 to slow Quebec's "We're Outta Here" campaign, says any referendum must have a clear question and clear majority. But here's the twist. Ottawa decides what counts as clear. That's not democracy. That's Confederation cosplay with a side of bureaucratic overreach. Like asking your landlord if you're allowed to move out and they say, sure, but only if we like your tone and also your reason. And through all this, a hero we didn't expect, but desperately needed, Governor General Mary Simon. Mary, while Carney hyperventilated into his carbon-neutral handkerchief, Mary stood up calm, clear, steady, and said the quiet part out loud. Maybe the West has a point. Governor General. Mary Simon didn't just nod politely. She acknowledged Alberta and Saskatchewan's right to pursue real provincial autonomy. And with that, Mark Carney went full DEFCON meltdown. The man who once recited central banking policy like Holy Scripture sputtered like a liberal intern caught holding a ballot box full of uncounted conservative votes. He looked like someone canceled his Netflix subscription and replaced it with 24/7 Pierre Poilievre town halls. Back in Ottawa, the Liberal Brain Trust is in full-blown panic. Carney was supposed to be the guy, the golden goose. The smart one, the adult in the room, the walking LinkedIn profile. But the illusion's gone. He's got the charisma of a wet spreadsheet. And Canadians? They don't want to be ruled by a human PowerPoint presentation. They want grit. They want answers. They want someone who doesn't confuse the prairies with policy theory and Pierre Poilievre. He delivers. Because this isn't just Alberta's rebellion anymore. This is a national reckoning. Growing revolt against a federal system that's tired, tone-deaf, and broken. A federation that only functions when every voice counts, and Ottawa's been on mute for years. Poilievre gets that. That's why he's surging while Carney's sputtering. That's why Danielle Smith isn't playing nice anymore. She's not leading Alberta into chaos, she's leading it into a reckoning. Demand for fairness, for balance, for basic respect. And now with the Governor General on record supporting a province's right to chart its own course, the Laurentian elite's monopoly on the national conversation just went up in smoke. So, what happens now? More referendums? A renegotiated Confederation deal? Or maybe, just maybe, the beginning of a Canada where Ottawa finally learns to listen. Mark Carney might still be out there lecturing in bureaucratese, but the West? The West is speaking in thunder, and that low rumble under your feet? That's not a train. It's not a stampede. It's not even Danielle Smith's convoy warming up. It's the sound of a country waking up. The sound of Pierre Poilievre walking toward a microphone with a plan and a promise. And Carney? He can take his Clarity Act, his Davos daydreams, and his crumbling political future and file them under irrelevant right next to Build Back Better and Carbon Trust initiatives. Because the people are done waiting. The West is done apologizing. Canada is finally ready for a leader who doesn't need subtitles to understand the prairies. This is Poilievre's moment, and that meltdown we just witnessed? That was the sound of Mark Carney realizing he's not in charge anymore.